Delegation isn't just a productivity hack, it's a growth lever. In this episode, Alexis Schomer, is that correct?
hmm
I should have asked you that. In this episode, Alexis Schomer reveals how virtual assistants can help founders stay in their zone of genius, eliminate overwhelm, and scale smartly. Learn how to delegate first, how to avoid hiring VA mistakes, and why trying to do it all is slowing your business down. And we just got done talking about that.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyon, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyon, your host, lead machine coach, and the founder of the Lead Machine Marketing Group and Mastermind. And I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. And whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business and life to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. Alexis Schomer is a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of Your Startup Operations, or YSO. It's a remote agency helping founders scale by providing high-performing VAs and operational support. With a background in tech, digital marketing, and process automation, Alexis built and has grown multiple businesses, including 2 health tech startups and a digital agency. She now helps business owners streamline operations, delegate effectively, and design businesses that support their lifestyle. All things that I think our listeners are interested in doing. Alexis, thank you for coming to the show today. Welcome.
Thanks for that great introduction, Paul, and thanks for having me on the show. Excited to get into this topic of delegation and helping businesses scale.
Yeah. So let's start with the big picture. How can we what made you zero in on virtual assistants in the first place and as a lever for growth?
I think the biggest thing for me was overcoming that barrier myself of delegation. For many years, I would say the first 10 years of my entrepreneurial career, I did not want to delegate. I was scared to hand off. I wanted to keep control of everything, and I felt like I could do it faster myself. And that
Mhm.
is true. So, a
Mhm.
framework that I like to kind of give to other business owners if they're scared to delegate is if somebody can do it 80% as good as you, it's time to let go. So once I
Yeah.
was able to overcome that barrier a lot, thanks to my partner Jenna, who taught me about getting over that delegation scare. I realized that
Mhm.
the business could grow like essentially exponentially because that freed up my time to work on the business. So we
Yeah.
found this niche of virtual assistants, mostly for service-based businesses, but really it could be for any type of admin work. And
Mhm.
now I love helping other businesses also overcome that challenge, delegate so they can focus on growing and scaling.
And why now and how is it a lever for growth? I mean, can be a little more specific about that because I'm really interested in that. I think our listeners
Okay.
are too. Yeah.
So if you are the one doing everything in your business, you only have obviously 24 hours in a day. You still need to eat and sleep and spend time with your family. If you had
Mhm.
somebody that was working 40 hours a week, taking that work off of your plate, that gives you the power to focus on scaling and growing the business. So if you're spending even 10 minutes a day doing work that should be like $10 an hour work, like you said, or should
Yeah.
be something that an admin can do, it's taking that time away from you scaling and growing. So if you can get out of the day to day and work on growth, that is the lever you can push because you can be on sales calls, you can be networking, or you can get that time back to just spend, live the life how you want. So the lever is really getting the business owner off of the admin work and then having somebody come in that can follow a process, like help delegate that work off and then create a repeatable system or process that anyone can really fill into.
Yeah, and you mentioned systems, and systems are important. I've been a systems guy for my entire career in IT and marketing. And what sort of systems do you recommend that founders set up before hiring a VA, or is that something it's kind of a both and sort of thing?
I think a lot of business owners have their systems set, but they just not like they may not be documented. So
Yeah.
for example, sorry, there's some background noise here. Um, for example, we worked with, I don't know if I should pause and like wait for this noise to stop.
I don't hear any noise. It's okay,
Okay,
unless
perfect.
it's distracting to you.
It's okay. We worked with a DJ, a corporate DJ who has had all of his systems and processes in place. He just didn't have anything documented. So
Mhm.
he had he had his emails that he would send. He had a process that he wanted to follow. So we worked with him. We had him screen record, and then we were able to create an SOP to extract the process that he'd set, and that was we were able to teach to the VA.
Mm,
So a lot of business owners, if they've been around for a long time, the process is up here. And so in the first 2 weeks of working with them, it's my job to extract it out of their brains and document
yeah.
it properly through an SOP or through a system or anything like that. I recommend that if you are doing something repeatable, like if you're doing something every day or you're doing something once a week and it's something that could be delegated off, the next time you do it, just record your screen. That's the first step. It's the easiest thing to do because you don't have to sit down and do extra work. It's just recording yourself doing it. And that's the first step of documenting your processes.
Yeah, I like how you pointed that out that you can do it as you are repeating it. I call that the power of incremental action.
Mhm.
So when you're doing something, and the best time to do that is when you're too busy to do it. That's the exact time that you say, "Oh, I have to do this because that broke." And those broken things need to be included in your processes. Uh,
Mhm.
and you don't think about them until you're stressing your system. When your system is stressed, when you're stressed, that's probably the best time to either document it or say, I need to document this and make a punch list of things that you need to document because you don't always have a crisis. And sometimes it might be monthly, it might be quarterly, it might be once a time when the power goes off, those
Mhm.
kinds of things. Those obviously demand your immediate attention, but the more you grow, the more the more you need to have people that do that for you.
Exactly. And I've also found that sometimes business owners don't exactly know where to start, but that's why, working with someone who's done this before, like myself, I spend the time with you and I get all the information out of you. So I will ask you the questions of the steps in your process and might be things that you forget is even part of your process because they're so
Mm.
natural to you and you just do them, like in your sleep. And that's when we're able to actually sit down and map things out. And then when you can see them mapped out, you can think of a missing piece or something that I didn't
Yeah.
catch and we can add it in. So it's better as a kind of like a collaborative teamwork process of brainstorming out the processes, talking them through, making sure we have all the steps. And then also, having done this so many times with so many different businesses, I can kind of predict where I think the gaps are and then ask the questions to extract those pieces to add in.
I think it's really important to have someone walk you through a process that's proven than trying to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
Um, the thing that I would have a problem with, and I've talked to many of my clients about this very thing who are considering, and I've interviewed other people on this. How do you prioritize and decide what to work on first and what to delegate first? Because
Mhm.
there's going to be some fear
Mhm.
that we have to overcome. So how do you approach that?
You can go one of two ways. I would say one way is like the easiest admin work, getting that off your plate first, or you could go the
Mm,
approach of what work is going to make the most impact. If you have a lot you want to delegate and you're wondering, what should we prioritize? I would say the work that will make the most impact, which probably will be revenue generating, like sales type of work, creating invoices, helping with follow-ups with leads, things like that. Or if it's more of the fear-based and you're trying to prioritize based on like what scares you the least, I would say
mhm.
the low-hanging fruit are things that are outside of like really personal aspects, like maybe your personal email. So maybe getting an admin email and having a little bit of separation so that the admin kind of has their domain and you still have your domain. But things like, I would say email management is one that, especially if it's a small business that has a general email, the admin should be the first one in there organizing. The business owner should never come into like a general email first because there will be so much clutter and they don't need to waste their time going through the clutter.
Yeah, I can tell you that my inbox is cluttered because every guest that I've had on this show, I'm signed up for their newsletter because I'm interested in what they're offering and I learn and I want to keep in touch with them. No, I want to know what they're up to, and that's such a time suck. But
Mhm.
I but and they are in my CRM and I do use tasks to remind me to follow up. Do I always remember to follow up? No, but they're in there. So someone probably needs to go in there and clean out my task and say, "Hey, what's the priority on this task? Because it's a year past due." So,
Yeah.
but
And there are some best practices that we teach all of our virtual assistants. So for you, for email management, one tip that I can give would be to create a folder called newsletters and you filter all the newsletters in there so that it doesn't clutter your inbox. You can go in and take a peek when you have extra time, but you can set up filters to automatically sort the emails so that the ones that are definitely not urgent, like a newsletter, can be filtered out and not cluttering like the important day-to-day emails.
so everyone who's listening, take out a pen and paper and start taking notes. Write down that productivity hack. It's so stupidly simple that but it would work. And I'm going to do that when I get in the morning tomorrow morning when I open up my inbox again. I'm going to start doing that. But again, it's going to be incremental because you're not going to know whose newsletters you're on, and but you're
Mhm.
going to say, oh yeah, I always delete this one or I always save it for later because that's a really good tip they've got there. I want to come back to that. So
Mhm.
so there is some intentionality to my inbox, but there's also some frivolity to my inbox.
Mhm.
So so uh, the other thing I think that business owners have is the different channels of communication. So we just talked about email.
Mhm.
Um, one of the tools that I use has a consolidated inbox so that all my DMs and my emails and those are in one place. So I can see the thread of a conversation. Now, not all of my conversations are in there, but my prospects and things are, which is
Mhm.
help. But how can we get help with that?
So are you talking about like a sales CRM that consolidates sales communications or
Well, not everybody has that. I happen to have that, and I
Mhm.
offer that as a service. Um, but many business owners don't have a consolidated inbox. They've got DMs all over. One of my clients has Instagram, and he's got Twitter, and he's got TikTok, and he's got YouTube, and he's got his email. He got two or three emails. You
Mhm.
know, how do we get a handle on that?
So a couple tips that came to mind. One would be for business, I recommend consolidating the platforms that you communicate through, besides social. So, for example, texting, WhatsApp, Slack, email. I recommend limiting it to as little as possible and not using personal cell phones for business communications. That can help
Mhm.
eliminate like calls and texts from your cell. If needed, you can set up a Google Voice or another voice over IP tool. But
Yeah.
that for me has personally helped separate like work life or create some work life balance. Just
Mhm.
setting up a simple Google Voice. That way, like you choose when you log in and they can't, bombard you on your personal time. In terms of managing all the platforms, I think you're referring to some sales tools on the marketing side for social media. There's also tools that will consolidate everything, but those tools can also be expensive and it might be cheaper to just have a virtual assistant managing
Yeah.
communications for you, especially if it is minimal on like Twitter, DMs on Instagram. I would say you have a virtual assistant checking, depending on the volume, like a few times a week, if not daily, if not once a week, depending on the volume. But that's another task that I would think the business owner should really never touch is social media responses, DM communications.
Right. And so you've got a VA. Now we've got a VA that's handling your communications, that's in between you. You've got separation of personal and business. And then what about escalation? So we've got a VA who's trained to handle day-to-day stuff, but there's always stuff that's got to be handled by you or a team member.
Yeah. So depending on the business, if the business is big enough, there will be a customer service department or somebody that's dedicated to responding to escalated issues. It would go to that person. If it's a smaller business and it's just the business owner, then typically admins or VAs will have weekly, if not daily, syncs with the business owner, depending on the volume of the work and the type of business. At least a weekly sync. But if it's really something urgent, then the VA can ping the business owner on the preferred tool. So I recommend Slack. It could be just an email, but letting them know, hey, like this happened, this needs your response, or let me know how you'd like me to handle this. So at least only the really urgent messages are getting on the business owner's to-do list versus having to go through like all 50, even if only 1 out of 50 was urgent or needed their attention.
Gotcha. Um, One of the things we talked about was that mindset. And so
Mhm.
no, you mentioned it. If people can do it 80% of the time, that sounds like a great thing. But how do you work with founders and how do you work with me to say no one can do it like me? How do you get over that? That's a mindset thing and it's a control thing, but it's something that you deal with all the time. I'm guaranteed. I know you do, just by the
Well,
smile on your face.
to be honest, I don't, if I'm working with you, you've probably already gotten over like that initial pushback. Like you're not
True.
going to sign a contract with me if you still don't want to delegate. So
Right.
my job is to, share case studies, resources, maybe other people that we've worked with that have had great experiences with VAs so that that can ease your worries. But at the end of the day, it is about trust. And typically the business owners would trust me or trust my business partner because we have had years of experience operating businesses, working with startups, doing it ourselves. And we are the middleman that's going to be training, managing the VA, and quality assuring. And that's really the big piece that I think is the most valuable for a small business is being able to work with someone like myself to be that middle person versus a lot of other agencies kind of just staff you with a VA and hope that all goes well. We provide that like American-based like support from entrepreneurs that have done it before. So that kind of fear is mitigated a little bit by my involvement, being there with you, making sure the processes are smooth, training the person, and creating a custom program for onboarding the VA, a 3-month program that ensures success on from all parties. So that's part of what we do to make sure that the business owners are satisfied, the VAs are also satisfied in the job, and everything is running smoothly or as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, I like that management part. I don't know that all, other agencies such as yours do that. And
Hmm.
they kind of leave you out to dry. And then that leads me to what are some of the big mistakes that people who are looking for VAs and hiring and using VAs, what sort of mistakes do they make?
I think in the beginning, on expecting perfection quickly, that's just unrealistic. So any new person, any new job is going to have a period of learning, especially with someone remote, especially from someone that's probably overseas. So there is a period of patience that's required. If the business owner is working directly with the VA, there's a lot of patience required. If there's somebody in the middle managing, that person is the one that is going to be, having that patience. So there needs to be an understanding that there is a learning period. I would say mistake number two is not having a very clear onboarding plan. So just like any like big company would have for a new hire, a 90-day onboarding plan, that same approach should be applied for a virtual assistant, where there's a clear set of expectations, a clear set of what good looks like in 90 days. And things may, change over time, but at least the base of the job description, the expectations are set so that when the VA reaches that point, both the VA and the business owner should be on the same page if success was met. So clear onboarding, having patience, and I would say mistake number 3 is being afraid to repeat yourself if you notice there is something that doesn't align with your process or if you want to change something. So I've seen business owners that want to just say something once and like have it said and done, and that as long as it's understood and communicated, that should be okay, but everyone's human, and sometimes you need to hear something twice. So just being afraid to speak up and really communicating very clearly and having everything in writing as well, so that when you say something, and now with AI tools, it's become very easy. But when you say something, make sure the VA documents it in the SOP. So if you're like, hey, I want to change my response to this email, it needs to be documented in writing so that the VA has something to refer back to because everyone can't remember everything. So having that SOP
Yeah.
clear documentation is very helpful.
I know you just reminded me of my mother-in-law and my youngest stepdaughter who's 18. She moved in with my mother-in-law when her husband passed. She's 85. And she's old school. She's 85. And she grew up as under certain expectations. And she says, well, she should know that she should do this. She should know that she shouldn't leave the dishes in the sink. She should know that she should change the dishwasher and put her clothes and pick up her clothes and all those things. And they had to move out. She had to move out. They could not reconcile that because of those just unmet expectations.
Mhm.
And all it required was, if you want it to be done a certain way, then you need to reinforce that. It's just like with an employee or with anybody in any relationships, like, no, you didn't quite do that the way or how and when and if I would want it to be done. And of course, she had a cleaning business called the Clean Machine, and so she used to clean for a living. So her house is very tidy, and my stepdaughter is not very tidy. So she's 18. She's a teenager. But so yeah, being clear with what your expectations are and reinforcing that with positive and sometimes negative reinforcement. It's a give and take kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
it's just like if you had a contractor. I mean, I told you earlier before we started taping, I hired someone on Fiverr to do an infographic for me. Well, I had to go back and forth, and they're in Sri Lanka, and so every revision I had was a 24-hour revision. So I had to be very, very specific,
Mhm.
and you do screenshots and instructions, and it took a while to get it right. It took what should have taken a couple of days took 5 or 6 days
Mhm.
because of that overlap, the time overlap, and just the communication gap. But I was able to communicate what I want and I got what I needed because I was able to stay on top of it. It was, and fortunately I had AI to help me with that. It's like, this is what I want. And I would record it and then here, make some sense out of this so we can clean it up and give it to someone so they can follow it. So speaking of AI, which I use extensively in my business for those kinds of things to help me communicate more clearly. How do you and your AIs or your VAs use AI to be more effective?
So we value AI as a tool, not as a replacement of a job. And we
Right.
teach our VAs how to use it properly. And we also teach them that if AI can do it without them, then they're not needed. So we don't want anyone to get too comfortable with AI and only rely on it. We still want everyone to use their human brain because that's why we hire humans, is to have that human touch in the middle. So we do train
Yeah.
our team on how to use ChatGPT to be more efficient, to check things. But if we ever find, like, we are actually very strict with not relying on it solely and reviewing everything that ChatGPT outputs, to verify it. Because at the end of the day, it's your job, it's your responsibility to fact check. But
Mhm.
we have found AI to be extremely helpful with cutting down the time it takes to do a task, because we give it the right inputs. So that's part of our process, is training our VAs to be AI like skilled in AI tools. Some businesses require different AI than others, but we found that at a bare minimum, ChatGPT works for a lot of admin work, especially when you train ChatGPT on the business itself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I find it a huge time saver, but
Mhm.
especially with producing a podcast and things like that, it's so helpful. But because I'm repurposing or using my own content in my own voice,
Mhm.
that really helps ChatGPT know what my voice is like and know what my show is about and all those kinds of things. So that's super helpful.
Yeah, I thought
Um,
I don't know if this is the right podcast to share this on, but I thought it was kind of funny looking at some of the podcast applications and you can tell if you use ChatGPT a lot what's been ChatGPT'd. So I just thought it was funny, like your ChatGPT talks to my ChatGPT, but then at the end of the day, like it's all about the humans conversing. So
yeah.
we still need humans and we give things like character, I would say. So ChatGPT is helpful, and like you said, it can learn your voice and make things more efficient. But at the end of the day, it's still human to human interactions that matter.
Yeah, and stories and experiences. They don't have those. And so
Mhm.
you can use your stories and your experiences to help fine tune what ChatGPT outputs.
Right.
And so but yeah, I love to talk about content repurposing and all that, but that's not the episode for this. So can you share
I'm happy to get into that if you want.
well, we're gonna shift focus here in a minute.
Okay.
We're gonna shift down to building your business in a minute. But before we do that, can you share? Because I wanted to hone in on the VAs because I know a lot of people are really interested in that. And there's like I said, there's that fear factor, and don't be afraid. Alexis has a process, and if you follow that process, you're gonna be doing a great job. So, can you share some examples of how some of your client examples? You don't have to name names or anything, but how they significantly improved response time and service time by delegating to a VA.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what type of businesses most of your listeners are? Is there like a general, are there any similarities that so I can think of which example to share that's most
Yeah,
relevant?
well, sure. There are. We said service businesses. Um, I have one of my clients is it teaches sewing for fun and profit. She has a nonprofit that teaches Chicago-based youths to learn industrial sewing so that they can get
Okay.
good jobs. But I also have a golf professional who's an instructor.
Okay.
I've got a speaker and author. I've also got service providers that are in the office. Uh, so local business service providers as well as coaching.
Okay. So
So
we
kind of
have
a gamut.
Yeah, we have a variety of those as well. So I'll talk about a landscaping business and an electrical business, because you said you asked for response time. So with those
Yeah.
businesses and also an entertainment business, businesses that get leads from any source, in sales, response times are very important. So
Mhm.
we've helped set up processes and implemented a virtual assistant to be responding, within the same business day to any lead that comes in. Some of the processes are set up on social media for our more design style, like landscaping business, interior designer. Those end up getting leads on social media. So we have set up processes there, and our other businesses get leads through, like platforms like House, Yelp, um, HoneyBook, things like that. So, depending on
Mhm.
the business, the VA would be responding immediately to leads. They can call, they can email, they can DM back in the platform. So whatever the process of the business is, the VA would plug and play into that. So we have helped significantly grow businesses. One metric I can share and think of off the top of my head is we helped a client 9x his business in 1 year because
Wow.
of putting in that admin support that was able to respond to the leads he was getting in versus in the past, half them would slip through the cracks or he would respond to them in a few days. And with sales, with some certain businesses, if they don't respond in the day, you're going to go somewhere else. Like if you're looking for a plumber, you probably need them ASAP. So if the plumber
Yeah.
doesn't respond, they'll find someone else, and who responds quickly. So, yeah, we found that response times matter, and the VAs can be responsible for that. The business owners should not be worrying about having to respond to an email within the hour because they may be, at a networking event or doing something else to build their business.
Or they might be fixing a sink or
They might be working on the job.
they'd
Exactly.
be on the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for local businesses, that's really important because they will, like your people will call off of Google, the
Mhm.
Google business profile, and they'll just go to the next one, the
Right.
next, the next, the next, you know. And so 9x is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't guarantee that for everyone. But
No,
that's a
no.
metric that we were able to capture.
Well, I mean, if you have a leaky bucket, if you can't respond to leads immediately, uh, in certain kinds of businesses, people will do, they want instant gratification.
Mhm.
And if you don't provide that in some, even through automation, uh, they're going to move on.
Mhm.
Yeah. So speaking of automation, how do you help clients blend automation with the human touch?
So we don't specialize in automation, but
Uh-huh.
through our onboarding process, I often find ways to help recommend automation. And
Mhm.
typically, our VAs, once they're in their role, they also will explore implementing automation. So at our company, we provide monthly training and development sessions for our virtual assistants. So we're all sharing knowledge, and sometimes like there's a new automation tool that one landscaping company implemented, and it's either free or low cost, then we can use that same tool for our other clients as well. So the
Yeah.
VAs can actually start to implement some of these new automation tools depending on the complexity of the tool and if it's a company-wide issue process or something that they're handling. But we train our VAs to also be very forward-thinking and to be able to work on automating their own processes.
Gotcha. And do your VAs do you have like a community where they can share do knowledge share and things like that you facilitate?
Only internally, like VAs that work for our company.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
have, yeah, we have our own communities. We also have weekly VA meetings where if they can join, they join. We have monthly training calls, and then yeah, so we have a lot of internal community within our company, but that, it's a great idea to actually open that up and expand to any VA or any business owner to share productivity tips because we've been learning a lot, in the years that we've been in business and have a lot of information to share with others as well.
Yeah. Wow. So you really have it together. And so before we move on to, I want to just drop if you want to connect with Alexis, go to yourstartupoperations.com and there's a contact page, there's an About Us page, and you can explore their services and things like that. So if you're interested in getting a VA or just learning more about it, I think Alexis is your gal to help you with that. So that was a short commercial for you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
So in the we connected on podcastguests.com. And in your application, you talked about um, things that I'm really interested in is the business growth side of things. You've built multiple businesses, and you've learned through that process, and then you've started this company. You founded this company that provides the kind of services that you didn't have when you started out, right? And so, what led you to focus on virtual assistants, and why do you think that's critical for business today? I mean, we kind of poked at that, but I want to then get a little bit more into your genesis. There was a spark at some point and said, "Oh wow, I can make a business out of this."
Hmm. So, like I mentioned before, it took me a long time to delegate. And when I first tried working with a VA, I thought it didn't work out because the VA's quality of work was very low, and I just ruled it out like, no, this isn't going to work. I'll do it myself. So I had that fear for a long time. When I
Mhm.
broke through that fear and I learned what it took to delegate properly, it doubled our business in a year, and it's going to double it again this year. So the power of delegation was extremely powerful for me, like personally as an entrepreneur. And I feel like I would not be anywhere close to where I'm at today if I didn't have the team behind me helping. But it did take a long time to get over that hump. And once I did, I really enjoyed like where how I felt as an entrepreneur, and I wanted to help other business owners get there as well. So I do feel like it takes a mixture of experience and knowing operations to be able to properly delegate to a virtual assistant. But now that we've found this process, it's repeatable. We've done it with many different types of businesses and done it for many years successfully. I want to just grow and help as many businesses implement this system as possible. So yeah, for me, it's very personal because I wouldn't be where I am without delegation, and it took me about 10 years of non-delegation to get there.
Yeah. And so what did you learn? What was the thing that flipped the switch for you, or flip the script, as AI likes to say, flip the script? I even see the media using that language now. It's strange. What was the thing though that about delegation that you didn't know that you do know now? And is there some sort of process that you go through? Um, Share that with us.
Yeah, so it's not extremely simple to where you can just find someone and delegate. It doesn't work like that. I would say the two big pieces that make it successful are finding the right person. And so to do that, there's an entire recruitment process that we follow. And then the process side. So having clear processes, having it
Mhm.
documented, and having so person, process, and then training and management. If And when I tried to delegate before, I didn't have any of those. I tried to find someone and throw some marketing work at them and hope that they could deliver something beautiful. But what I learned was that you have to find the right person. They have to have the skill and the will to be there, and they have to have, good tenure. So we're looking at principles of recruitment. So we follow a very thorough recruitment process. I would say for each new VA we're going to hire, we'll probably recruit around 800 people. We'll source 800 candidates, and we have
Wow.
different stages that we weed people out. So we are looking for people that follow or align with all of our core values, the business's core values, have the skills, have long tenure, have X amount of years of experience, depending on the role. And then we pressure test them. We throw tasks at them that they have no experience doing and see if they can figure out new things. Can they critically think? Are they good at math? Like some random things that don't necessarily apply to a job that we found find us the needle in the haystack. And this is true for all recruitment and especially for talent overseas, where it's now virtual assistant is now a commodity, so it's really difficult to find the quality person. So narrowing down this process of finding the right people, now that's checking one of three boxes of how to make a VA engagement successful. The second piece was having a well-documented process. I had a lot of processes in my mind, but I didn't have any of them documented. So that is something that now I would say it's pretty much an expert in is documentation of the processes so that the VAs have something to work off of. And, people forget, even I now go back in our SOPs and I'll control F something to find like a very small detail I might have forgotten. And then step three is that management, and the patience that it does take, which I had in me because I love teaching, but I didn't really realize that I have to apply that patience and that teaching component for a virtual assistant. It's just like any new hire. So bringing that patience into the business, and having that patience and, working with someone, teaching them, that also set me up for success to have a successful virtual assistant. So I would say those are the three components that were missing before that now I've mastered to make this process work
Mhm.
very well.
Yeah. And you mentioned, well, you didn't say culture, but you said values.
Hmm.
So I'm glad you said that because as companies grow, I've seen companies. One company I worked with was a very family-oriented company, and in fact, several of them have been very, very family-oriented, uh, and it was tight knit, and they did things together, and you could tell that they had really, they were client-centric. They were they were client, vendor, and employee. They were very valued those relationships.
Hmm.
And at one point, they got they got to a point where they wanted to quadruple. And what they did is um, they really sacrificed those things, and
Mhm.
they were no longer relevant. So how did you sounds like you have some some morals and values that you and like patience you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Those are things that you wanted to keep in your business. You brought that into your business, and you probably want that to live on. How do you help your business grow while retaining those values and that culture of trust,
Yeah.
patience, and the common good?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think is a common challenge as businesses scale of how to hold on to company culture because you can set
Yeah.
something when it's small and it's hard to grow with it. What we do at YSO, we have our SCORE values, our 5 core values that spell out SCORE, and we
Hmm.
implement them from day one. They're part of our daily work. They're part of our performance reviews. They're part of our onboarding programs. So we are consistently ensuring alignment with our values from the initial interview, from our trial work with our virtual assistant through, like I said, our performance reviews. If we do find misalignment, we give that feedback immediately. And if we feel misaligned, like we will terminate that person. So culture and values are very important to us and also aligning with the business that they're working with. So maybe they align well with the YSO core values, but maybe there's other things with the small business that are not super important to us, but are important to the small business. And if the alignment isn't there, like I would say, if you've heard the phrase hire slow, fire fast, if you find that misalignment, I would say get rid of those people because once you find the people that are a good fit, it will propel the business forward.
Yeah, I agree. And do you also, I'd like to know what SCORE stands for, but before I do that, do you also vet your clients that way? Because some clients are just not a good fit.
Yeah.
And some clients are going to ask you to, clients and circumstances are going to ask you to violate those core values. And so how do you deal with that?
I've said this before on social media, and it's funny because this one thing that I've said has come back around to me, but you can fire a client. So if they don't
Yeah,
align with your values, if one client is sucking up your time and your energy and it's distracting you from being your best self or giving your all to your other clients, you can let those people go. And this is about like the mindset of scarcity. If you let go of that and you think that when you let go of something, it gives room for something better to come your way. I
yeah,
wholeheartedly do believe that. It is hard to let go of clients, especially if they're paying you because you're going to let go of that money, but I think that once an entrepreneur is at least a few years into a business, you can be more comfortable letting go of the people that take that, bring the negative energy out of you. So if you're with a client that doesn't align with your values and it's becoming detrimental to the business, it may be time to let them go.
yeah. Yeah, and I love that answer. So that's what I believe. And when you're starting out, you have to compromise to a certain degree, and you take on customers that might not, or clients that might not be the best fit, but you've got to get revenue in the door and you've got to get some momentum going. But as you go, and certainly even then, you don't want to take on a client who's going to make you violate or cheat or do something that really doesn't fit well with your North Star,
Right.
with your core values. You've got to do that. But you know you might take on something. Well, this isn't a perfect fit. I really don't want to do web hosting, for instance, but this is a friend of mine. I've known him for 15 years, and I'm going to bring him on and make sure he pays me on time. But at some point, I might have to let him go. But at this point, that might work.
Right.
So that kind of thing that comes up again. So what does SCORE stand for?
So our SCORE values, the S is for solution focused. We
Mhm.
encourage people to think of solutions first before asking for help. The C
Mhm.
is for curiosity. We think it's important that you are curious about your role so that when we give feedback on that value, the feedback is often around like looking up the reasons for why you're understanding why you're doing your job or understanding what the value is or what the outcome is. So being curious. and doing that research to understand like the bigger picture. The O is for ownership. This has been a really big one this year. We're really empowering our team to own their roles. So
Mhm.
when you are assigned, an area, we want you to own it from end to end without needing to be micromanaged, taking accountability and following through on either the tasks or even the people you need to follow up with to make sure that your role is owned by you.
Mhm.
The R is for resourcefulness, making sure that you're using all the resources available to you, once again, before maybe bothering your client or asking for help, doing that research yourself. So if somebody comes to me with a question and I know they could have found the answer like within 5 minutes of research, I'll give that feedback on reminding them to be resourceful so that we can all work the most efficiently. And the last one is excellence. So we pride ourselves in delivering excellent quality work, and we want our team to also live and breathe that value. So our our work, whether it's something that I'm delivering, a VA is delivering, we're delivering as an agency, we expect to deliver something that's really high quality with exceptional results. So this comprises of our score values.
Mhm.
And one more thing I wanted to add of how to keep the culture, besides what I mentioned before, is I
Yeah.
think that it does come from leadership. And what I try to do at YSO to live and breathe these values, besides living them in my day to day, is bringing them into our meetings and our North Star, as you mentioned. Whenever we talk about this, I incorporate the core values, in all of our forward thinking meetings. And lastly, when you're giving
Yeah.
feedback, when we give critical or constructive feedback, we make sure it's tied to one of our values. So we don't just
Mm.
give random feedback, because that can become very subjective. We give feedback based on values and we try to tie it. So we're like, hey, I think this lacked, or I have this feedback on this deliverable. Make sure that, you're really taking ownership in your role so that this doesn't happen next time. So we'll tie feedback to a value, and that keeps, that culture also tied all together.
Wow, that's a really great way of doing it. Most companies, or many companies, I can't say all of them or most of them, but many, the ones I've been exposed to, have a mission statement and they have these value statements, but no one could tell you what they are. You'd have to go look at the thing that's hanging in the conference room to see what they are.
Mhm.
And incorporating them into your day-to-day life, into your meetings, into your feedback, into your training, your onboarding, is a great way to do it. And I've spoken with a number of founders who are super successful that do it that way. So
Mhm.
congratulations to you for having come up with that. And for a minute there, I was thinking that, oh, okay, that's cool. It's for the VAs. Yeah, I get it. But then you live it. So
Mhm.
that's awesome. So we're getting kind of down to the wire, but before we get there, I want to ask you a question um, that I like to ask when I think of it is, what question do you wish I would have asked you that I didn't ask?
That's a good one. Um, I would say, because we've talked a lot about the fear of delegation, I would
Hmm.
say maybe the question that I'd like to be asked is, what can a business owner expect in the first 3 months working with a VA? What does a typical 90-day look like?
What? So answer the question. So what should a business owner expect in the first 30 to 90 days? What should they expect from you, or any provider of VA services? And if they don't get that, then that's your measuring stick to go and hire Alexis instead, right?
I would say the first 2 weeks should be very, very close working with the business on the processes. So we're learning exactly what processes we'll be delegating. We're creating those SOPs. We're setting those expectations. The first 30 days with the virtual assistant starting will be the learning period. The VAs learning the role. They're already starting to do admin tasks, I would say by day like 3 or 4. And we're syncing at least weekly, if not 3 times a week, with the business owner on a 1 hour sync. We like to set them for an hour, maybe 30 minutes if it can be shorter. So in the beginning, there's a lot more communication, and this is expected of any job, any role, like any VA. By the end of the first month, I would say that the VA and the business owner are working very closely together. The VA is most likely like rocking and rolling at their role, and we're tweaking any SOP adjustments, any processes that need to be changed or added or removed. And then by month two, I would say the VA is like pretty autonomous. The business owner is just there for those final checks, and the VA is really now able to like own their role more, be able to recommend, process improvements. And I'm also there behind the scenes of all of this, but I like the VA to really like own their own role and kind of lead the meetings, lead the calls. So by the end of month three, I would say the business owner now feels like they can really take a deep breath. They're saving, you know, 20, if not 40 hours a week of those tasks that are now offloaded to the VA. I would say there's 20, like at minimum, we can guarantee like 10 to 20 hours of work saved because yeah, the VA may not be able to do as quickly as you, but at least you're not doing those tasks anymore. So by month three, the business owner feels like they have a significant amount of time back. They're either enjoying that time or they're reinvesting it in things that are revenue producing. At this point, from historical interviews and testimonials interviews, the business owners feel like extremely grateful to have found a resource that actually helps them focus on their business or gets their time back to focus on spending time with their family.
Wow. Right. And so I would assume that as you roll this out, there's an onboarding process. So there's a rinse and repeat of increasing delegation of tasks because you can't take on everything all at once. So you've got to roll those things out as well. Is that a fair statement? That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, from other agencies, it seems like they like to limit it to 3 tasks. I don't limit it with my business owners. I'll take on everything that they want to delegate, and then I'll map out on the 3-month onboarding at what point I think the VA can start taking on more things. And this is something that's adjusted weekly. We review it every Friday. I adjust as needed. So it's a very hands-on experience. It's really not so, it's the rinse and repeat is the process, but the actual execution of it is very customized based on the business, based on the VA's progress, based on the business owner's involvement. Some business owners, once they see that the VA's got it, they're out and they're like, you handle it, I'm out. Others like to stay involved. So it really just depends on all those factors. But yes, I would say that over time, the VA can definitely start taking on more. And we build that into the 3-month. And even beyond that, maybe at 6 months, the VA starts taking on new work, like phone calls or other things that the business owner didn't want to delegate in the beginning.
And we talked a lot about operations. You and I are alike. We love operations and how things are implemented. What about the marketing side of things? Is that something else that you can also help with? With is it simply admin focused, or is there some creativity and planning and marketing strategy involved with VAs?
With the marketing, I say a VA can do it if it's admin marketing, like scheduling content, helping think of content ideas. But I would say that an admin VA's skill set is not the same as a marketing person's skill set. So if you're looking
Yeah,
for that strategy, the design work, you need a marketing agency, a social media engagement, which funny enough, like I come from now 11 years of running a marketing agency. So YSO does offer some marketing services like social media, like email marketing, but the team for that is very different from the admin team. So
yeah,
thinking of skill sets, people, they want their VA to do everything, and that's just really not how it works. Marketing is more of a specialized skill and requires
yeah.
a different type of experience than an admin VA would require.
hmm Yeah, and it's the admin things that many business owners really hate to do anyway.
Hmm.
And those are the things that, like updating content or scheduling content, you're like you say, or managing the inbox, which is overflowing. Yeah, those are real high value things to delegate so that you free up time to maybe plan your marketing and work with your agency, or maybe
Right.
that's maybe marketing is your jam and you like to do that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so
So I caution people to try not to mix too many specialties as an expectation for one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone that's really good at admin work probably isn't the best at being a creative, and vice versa. Someone that's a creative probably does not like, data entry research. So it's
No.
best to keep people in their zones of genius.
Right. Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been fun. I appreciate all the things you've shared, Alexis. As we wrap up with your final words, what are three things that our listeners can do to put these ideas into action?
So to wrap up, I would say document your processes, have
Hmm.
clear expectations, and give clear feedback and communicate well with anyone on your team, especially a VA.
Right. And you're also offering a free strategy session for people. Can you tell us about that and how to get
Yes,
it?
absolutely. So for any of the listeners on this podcast, I'd love to offer that free 20-minute session. We can go through if you have fear of delegation, if you're not sure what to prioritize, kind of go through and game plan what would be the first things to delegate off. I can give any tips and tricks, that I have and that I'd like to share. And so all you need to do to access that is go to yourstartupoperations.com, fill out the contact form and reference that you're coming from this podcast, and I will make sure to apply that free consultation, or you can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or email.
Okay, yeah, that's yourstartupoperations.com. And you can go to the contact page and connect with her. Mention the Lead Machine Growth Show. And as we wrap up, remember faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyon and Alexis Schomer. Thank you so much for coming today. I've really enjoyed our discussion.
Thanks, Paul. This is a great episode. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.